Thanks to the guys at FreeTrade, this video is sponsored. Yes, get yourself a free share up to £200 today. Check out the deal in the description below. What are you waiting for? Get signed up now.
Welcome back everybody. Yes, another SUV, and you're probably scratching your heads to know why I'm reviewing another one. Well, simple answer is I don't know. But fortunately for me, and unfortunately, the population of the world seem to love SUVs. Why? I don't know. But I am continuing the trend, jumping on it and getting on the bandwagon. And speaking of wagons, behind me is the all-new Ford Kuga ST Line X Edition. Yes, a mouthful. One that I've mastered to a T. And yes, your eyes don't deceive you, because as the title and the extra filler cap suggests, this is the new plug-in hybrid version. And Ford boldly state that this is the best of both worlds for both petrol lovers and EV lovers. But for me, however, I think it's a nightmare waiting to happen. So, I know criticism already. Hey, it's a PocketRockets SUV video. What can I say? But before you start smashing those keyboards, give me a chance. Let me at least get halfway through this review before you start leaving me, horrible comments, because that's not what I want. I want positivity, even though I'm about to be a little bit negative about this car. But let's start with the exterior, because I'm actually quite a big fan of it. Yes, okay, it's not the best looking thing in the world, but it certainly isn't the worst. And if you're taking it from the previous generation, I think it's generally probably a lot nicer. Yeah, I think it is. Yes, okay, it's not as subtle. There are a lot more curvy and sculpted shapes, which I quite like. It adds character to the car. And I think that will help bring in a broader target market for Ford, for customers to buy these cars. And I have to comment one thing though. Even though this is proportioned quite well from the side and the rear, the front, however, leaves a little bit of a question mark for me, because it seems like someone at Ford has gone over to the Ford Focus department and done the old Control Shift and C shortcut and plonked it onto the Kuga. Yes, scaled it up vertically by 100%, and here we have it, a very weird looking front end. What do you think? Let us know down below. On the other hand, however, this is the ST Line X Edition, so you do get a sportier looking car, or a package overall. Yes, you do get lots of glossy black stuff. The grille has changed as well to signify this is the ST Line version. And get this, apart from the litter of ST Line badging everywhere, you get 2 real exhaust tips. Yes, no fake nonsense here. Good job, Ford. So typically with Ford, they've used the old Control Shift and C shortcut here in the interior as well. Looks very familiar to a Focus, because it is literally the same. But in this occasion, I'm not going to slate it too much. It's no bad thing. I think the interior is a very nice place to be, and Ford have definitely stepped up their game. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time Ford have done this, and it certainly isn't going to be the last. The quality of materials has definitely improved as well, especially from the previous iteration of the Kuga. Up here we've got lots of soft touching materials, not so much here, scratchy plastic, but here again we've got some nice soft touching stuff, and then further down we get some more plastic areas. But you'd argue that you'd prefer having some plastic areas rather than soft touching materials down below, because you know over time they're going to get abused by people coming in and out of the car. As we're in the ST Line X Edition, we get these lovely sporty seats with the fake Alcantara. Yes, it's not real, guys. You also get this very questionable carbon fibre effect look, which is really very tacky and looks printed, to be fair. Definitely isn't real at all. But the seats, however, are very comfortable. On longer journeys especially, they're like sitting in armchairs. Unfortunately, there isn't much bolstering, but again, you argue with this application, do you really need much bolstering? You're not going to be sending this car around Snetterton or 100 mile an hour through a corner on a B road, which you can't do anyway unless you're in Mexico. Storage in the front is plentiful. Yes, you've got many cubby holes to store toot. For example, you've got 2 cup holders here with a fairly decent sized water bottle filled with some go-go juice. Love that. You also get a front cubby hole section here where I mentioned earlier you get wireless phone charging obviously an optional extra. And to the side of it, you get some spare space for your keys, and it's got a nice grippy feel to it. You also get 2 USB slots, so obviously you can plug your smartphone in to get Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, and you get the old-fashioned 12-volt socket. Don't even know what you'd use a 12-volt socket for these days. You get a nice little cubby hole space here behind the cup holders. Again, more space for more toot. And lastly, you get some more cubby hole space in the centre armrest. Door bin sizes, again, fairly decent. You've got a little tray system here where you can store chewing gums, I suppose. Another spot for your water bottle, and a sort of slanted other cubby hole, which I don't understand personally. Again, every car gets a glove box. This one's fairly average. I don't know how you could say a glove box is big or small. Yeah, I don't know. It's got enough space in there, even with the manual in there. But what I love here is the sunglass holder. Now, for me, in my cars, my sunglasses just get thrown anywhere. And yeah, they end up getting damaged or scratched. Whereas with this, you can store them in here. Yes, okay, you've got to remember to take them, especially for me, I only have this car for a week. So yeah, that's probably the only downside to it. And finally, finding your perfect driving position is a doddle. Not only can you adjust for reach, you can adjust for rake as well. Whoa. Probably could do with a little bit more adjustment, but it's definitely better than having nothing. Also, the seats are electrically adjustable too, so I can go back. How far can I go back? Probably not that far. Oh, so I can't even reach the pedals. It's pretty good. And then let's see how far we can go forward. We're placing bets. Can it crush my legs? Can it crush my legs? Oh, still going, still going, still going, still going, still going. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, just about. I've still got some leg room. God, who drives like this? There's probably someone in the world. You can also bring the seat down, which is fully down at the minute, and you can bring it fully up. This is definitely going to crush my legs. So there's still plenty to go, but I can't move anymore without getting squashed to death. And yeah, you can also recline the seat as well, so I can go back. God, I'm taking a long time doing this bit. Oh, I'm so comfortable now, right? And then you can go back up. Let's see if I can get even more comfortable. Right. Yeah, there we go. See, I told you, finding your perfect driving position is a doddle. Oh, so comfortable. Oh, could do about 400-mile journey in this. Woo. So as my good friend Aaron from Car Obsession likes to call me, a midget, usually when I test cars, or test the practicality in the rear of them anyway, I then tend not to have a problem. And that's the same for this. Yes, I've got bundles of room, both leg and head. Absolutely love it. This is a proper SUV. And what I like more is the fact that I can stretch my legs all the way under the seat and yeah, have no problems. And Ford have sculpted the rear seats to curve around the passenger's leg area. So I've actually set this passenger seat to how I would be comfortable in the front. And that front person in front of me could bring the seat even further back if they wanted to. And I'd still have plenty of leg room. Headroom, again, I have bundles of it. And that's even with this pano roof, which usually in other cars eats into headroom. But a 6-foot person or plus like Aaron would perfectly fit in here with no complaints. You can fit 3 people in the back here. I would probably advise that you wouldn't fit a 3rd person here, even though this car is bigger. You could do it, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it. You still get a transmission tunnel here, but it's very minimal, so it just makes it a little bit easier if you did want to carry a 3rd person. Speaking of the 3rd person, if you don't have a 3rd person here, you get this lovely armrest, so on longer journeys you can be a bit more comfortable, and you can store your hot or cold beverages in there. Not as secure as the front, but it's better than having nothing. Speaking of the practicality, you can also adjust the seats. Yes, you can adjust the rear seats by pulling this bar underneath, and I can either bring them forward or I can bring them back. And on top of that, I can also recline back, so I can pretend I'm in a Rolls Royce. Oh, love that. But let's bring that back. So yeah, what I love about that is you can compromise your passenger's room to gain boot size, or you can compromise boot space to give your passengers a little bit more room. It's absolutely fantastic. Such a good idea. And speaking of Rolls Royces, you get some more luxuries too. You get rear heated seats. That's amazing. Rear heated seats in a Ford. I know. I seem very I seem like I'm in disbelief about that, but I'm actually genuinely surprised. So no one fights over who's got a cold bum anymore. Well, apart from if you carry an unlucky third passenger in the back here. You also get a USB-C or normal USB plug, so you've got the best of both worlds there. In the older Cougars, you used to have a 3-pin socket. I've seen in some other reviews that used to be a 3-pin socket there. So could you argue you'd prefer a 3-pin socket over a USB? Yeah, I'd prefer a 3-pin socket, to be fair. Door bin size isn't that great. The storage here compared to the front is definitely missing some. The door bins are quite shallow. Again, you can fit a bottle of water in here, and yes, lose some mints in the other bit. It's very small. Of course, you get some map pockets, and that is about it for storage in the back. And speaking of storage, let's go and check out the boot, because yeah, that's definitely a lot more practical too. Thanks to this car being the ST Line X edition, you get a lot of standard kit. And now we're at the boot, I can demonstrate one of them, and that's the hands-free tailgate lifter, which at this point is probably going to mug me off, but with one swipe of the foot, it opens, and just like that, magic, the boot opens. So no longer having to use your hands or a key to open the boot like a peasant. Yes, I feel like I've got a Rolls Royce here. And let's kick things off with the boot by the size. Now, this is 475 litres with the rear seats up. And yeah, it's not too shabby. The boot size is fairly okay, it's fairly square. No problems fitting things in here. However, when you compare it to rivals, such as the Skoda Karoq, that boot size is almost double. Yes, 720 litres, I think. And yeah, even when I mentioned earlier that you can move the seats forward and back in the rear, it still doesn't cut the mustard. It's nowhere near as good as the Skoda. But you do get no loading lip. So loading stuff in and out is a breeze. And as I said, the boot shape is nice and square. So getting lots of luggage, for example, in will be absolutely adequate. You also get some tethering points here and at the back of the boot, along with a 12-volt socket and one shopping hook, which I've never understood in cars. Why only give you one? The last time I checked, when I do grocery shopping, I usually have more than one bag. So yeah, a pretty failed attempt at sorting a solution out there. Yeah, I think that's it of the boot. Not much to talk about. And on top, you get an electronic boot closer as well. Oh, we're spoiled. But now it's onto the front of the car, where we're going to talk about the engines. Yes, I said that in a plural tense, and you'll find out why. Now, before we go for a drive, get on the open road as they say, let's talk quickly about the engines. You get either petrol, diesel or electric. Well, not fully electric, but we'll get onto that. The petrol engines, you get two. Unlike the Puma, which I tested very recently, you only get one. With this, you're a little bit more spoilt for choice. You get two. And they're 1.5 litre EcoBoost engine with 150 horsepower, or this, the 2.5 litre EcoBoost engine that produces 220 horsepower. You only get the 2.5 litre EcoBoost engine when you go full hybrid or plug-in hybrid. Diesel engines, you get a 1.5 litre EcoBlue engine, which only produces 120 horsepower. Yeah, doesn't seem very great, does it, considering it's got a lug around 1,600 kilos. But if you're worried about that, Ford also offer a much bigger 2 litre EcoBlue engine that produces 190 horsepower. Most of the petrol and diesel applications, you can get both a 6-speed manual or an 8-speed auto. Unfortunately, you can only get the 2-litre diesel in an 8-speed auto only. And speaking of electric, yes, you can go to a sort of an electric platform with the Kuga now by either getting a full hybrid or a plug-in hybrid like I have today. And the difference between them is pretty much non-existent, really. The only difference is you don't have a plug on the side here where you can charge up at a wall or at home. And I recently did a test, which you can now see by clicking in the right hand corner or that way, depending where my symmetry is. And you can see how far I got on EV alone mode, because apparently Ford claim you can get 35 miles of EV range in this. So I thought, you know what, I'll put that to the test. Seeing as we're in the winter months now, batteries don't perform as well, I thought, hey, I'll do it so you guys don't have to. But yeah, even without doing the hybrid test myself, 35 miles of range, is it really worth that in this type of application for the money you're spending as well? No, I don't think so. But hey, let's go for a drive and see what it's like on the road. Right, so now it's time to go for a drive, and I'm going to mix it up, because usually I take cars that I test on B roads, because the cars I test are usually hot hatches, whereas in this case I've got a big SUV. So I'm going to do a bit of both. I'm going to find some open roads, and I'm also going to find some like residential / town roads, just to get a feel for the car in both elements. And I already know that this car isn't meant to be any type of performance car. It's a family SUV, and the time I've already had with it, it does that job pretty well. It ticks all the boxes. So I'm going to start off with the EV element, because we do have the plug-in version of this car. So as default, the car automatically goes into EV mode only. So when you come to a standstill, or you're putting off, say you're starting a car in the morning, it will start in electric mode. I assume that's because this car is more efficient by putting away in electric mode rather than using its petrol engine. So yeah, a feature that you get used to. It took me by surprise the first time that I got delivery of this car. But as I said, with the button controls being a little bit on the small side, long-term ownership, you'll get used to it. So when driving in EV, you have to be very, how can I say, you have to be very patient on the throttle. You can't just bung it down all the way like a full EV car, because if you do that, the electric motor will then die away, and then the petrol engine will come into play. So yeah, you have to be quite respectful to the throttle. You can't just demand it to provide you electric power no matter the throttle application, which I find a little bit weird, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of EV control, there is no way for you to tell the car that you just want to solely drive on EV power alone. It's called auto EV. So when there's battery, the car will automatically use electric rather than the petrol engine. When it, of course, runs out, you then have the petrol engine to take over. So in terms of owning a hybrid, you don't have to worry about range anxiety, because yes, you only get 35 miles, but when them 35 miles of electric range disappear, because inevitably and eventually it will, you will then have the petrol engine to save your life. Ride, slow moving, it's actually very compliant. Just trying out some speed humps now, and it absorbs them very nicely. This car comes on 19-inch alloys, which is standard with the ST Line X edition. I would probably recommend that you go for the ST Line X instead, which is pretty much kitted out like this car, apart from you don't get keyless entry and you don't get something else, which I can't quite remember. But for me, I'm not a big fan of keyless entry because of many reasons, which I won't go into. But yes, the other one is that on the ST Line X, as opposed to the Edition, you get 18-inch alloys instead, which, without even trying, I will recommend them, because yeah, a smaller tyre, you get less rotational mass, and the car will definitely ride a lot better. But yeah, slow moving. The car is very nice. It's very comfortable. Again, the seats, as I mentioned earlier, are obviously as part of the ST line trim. And yeah, very comfortable for both short and long distance. Not much bolstering, but again, you can argue that because of the car, this application, being a family SUV, are you really going to have like a Recaro seat that you get in, say, a Fiesta ST or a Puma ST? No, you're not. So I'm not even going to criticise the seat in that respect. Although, if you are a little bit of a nutter like me and you want to go fast and open it out on the B road, you can, but you will move around in a seat. Just a word of warning. Now, as we picked up in the engine choices earlier, you do get an assortment of either a manual 6-speed gearbox, an 8-speed auto gearbox, or in this respect, you only get a CVT. Now, they're both automatic gearboxes, don't get me wrong, but the CVT is more of a caveman-like design. It's almost, how can I explain it? Like the windscreen arm, washer arm, has been upgraded to take over the job of the gearbox. Yeah, I don't think it's up to the job. You always find that the petrol engine and the gearbox just aren't in sync together. And I'm not saying the 8-speed auto's any better. Well, I'm saying it's better in this instance, but it's far not the best on the market, if that makes sense. But yeah, CVTs, I'm very surprised because you usually find them in Japanese cars. The Japanese love to use them, especially in like Hondas and other vehicles. But yeah, when you're using the petrol engine, you don't notice it so much with the electric side of things, but when you're using the petrol engine and you're, say, on an A road, which we'll come to a little bit later, you find that it holds the gear for a long period of time, and then you end up hearing just loads of droning noises, and it just reminds me, and I reminisce of being in an agricultural tractor. But apparently they hold their gears like that because apparently it's the most efficient way of getting more fuel economy, which I find that very hard to believe. In the Kuga, you do get driving modes, so you have an assortment to choose from, like most of the other Ford platforms. So where is the driving mode button? Ah, here we are. So yeah, we've got the choice of normal, which we're in, the car defaults to normal. Eco, which does what it says on the tin, it gets a little bit more efficient. Engine dies down a bit, goes a little bit more lazy, just to eke out a bit more fuel economy. You've then got sport mode, which obviously turns the engine on, as it has done, and it does stiffen up the steering, but only slightly. Actually, it's very hard to tell a difference. That's how it's not that much, that's how it's not really that noticeable. You've then got slippery, which is when it's slippery, I suppose. So when it's raining, you've got the slippery mode to help you out, which I don't know how good that is because for once it's actually dry. And then we have snow and sand assist, which I can't demonstrate either because, yeah, global warming and that. So yeah, plenty of choice. So we briefly touched on the CVT gearbox in this car, and I'm going to demonstrate how terrible it is. Yeah, it becomes very noisy. Picks up pretty well, I have to admit. This engine's very strong, but it's just spoiled by that CVT gearbox personally. And yeah, this is the first time I've had the experience of driving with a CVT gearbox, because usually I just drive automatic gearboxes or manuals. And yeah, you definitely feel that a CVT gearbox is definitely behind the rest. It really is. And I'm just surprised that Ford have used it, bearing in mind that they've got their power shift gearboxes, their 8-speed or even 10 speeds. I don't know why they didn't use that instead. I'm baffed, I really am. Now we're on a little bit more of a B road, I can actually talk about the steering because, yeah, although it's good in town, it's not so good when you do start pushing it. When you need it most, the confidence through corners, the steering feel is just not there. And I know, when are you really going to be pushing this car to its limit? Hardly ever. So is it really something that I can criticise too much? No. But with a car, the car is designed to be a convenience. So if you do want to stretch its legs a little bit, you want to have some sort of confidence with it. And that's not saying that the suspension's not up to going through corners, because it's actually pretty decent through corners. It's just that steering feel really lacks and does spoil the experience. And the Kuga isn't the only victim of this. It's pretty much plagued through most of Ford's range. Yes, okay, with their performance side of things, they have tweaked the steering to make it a little bit more heavy, but you still do find that it has the same problem. There we go, nice little national speed limit area. And I have to admit, there is a bit of body roll. It's to be expected, seeing as this is a 1.8 ton car, but I am pretty surprised. It's just, again, that steering. Lovely when you want to do stuff like that, turning onto a junction, but when you start doing some speed into corners, yeah, you really have to concentrate, otherwise, yeah, there's trouble. So, if you're after a decent family-sized SUV, then look no further. The Kuga could be your answer. It's definitely upped its game from the last generation, in my opinion, and that's coming from someone that isn't the biggest of SUV fans. But, however, there is a big but, and that is the hybrid drivetrain in this car. Yeah, I just don't think it's the way forward. For what you're getting out of it, yeah, it's just not worth it, in my opinion. And the problem is that they've already made a car that's heavy as it is even more heavier. And building a car is a carbon intensive process as it is, and they've made that worse. Yeah, I can't figure it out, and I don't think I ever will. So the solution to the problem is just go and buy a petrol or a diesel version of this. The engine selection, as we've already highlighted, is more than enough for anyone looking for this type of car. Yes, I know there are bigger rivals and much stronger rivals out there, like the Skoda Karoq, that offers better refinement and more practicality. But if you are a Ford fan, yeah, this is definitely a cracking car, and I'm not taking anything away from it, even with the hybrid drivetrain. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. Also, drop some comments down below. Let me know what you think of the new Kuga and its hybrid system. Would look forward to hearing your thoughts of it. But until next time, I shall see you all guys very soon. Bye.